Captain Paul Watson is a controversial environmental activist and unlikely reality television star. He's been in trouble with governments on at least 3 continents. Watson will join us for an interview you'll see only on CBS This Morning. But first, a look at Scott Pelley's 60 Minutes report from October.
Hang on.
You're watching the ramming of a Japanese whaling ship by a combative conservation group led by American Paul Watson. He's trying to stop the transfer of a minke whale the Japanese just killed to the factory ship that will cut it up. Commercial whaling is banned by international agreements, but the Japanese and a few others are still launching harpoons. These scenes were shot for the Animal Planet series Whale Wars. And these scenes were shot by the whalers themselves, who say this is evidence that Watson is nothing more than a pirate. The Japanese obtained an international arrest warrant for him, so for the last year, this conservationist, or pirate, has lived on the world's oceans, unable to set foot on land.
And the man some call a pirate, Captain Paul Watson, is here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, it's so interesting when Scott Pelley did that piece on 60 Minutes and he was on the boat with you. It was an undisclosed location. Why?
Well, I was at sea for 15 months because Japan issued an arrest warrant for me for trespassing. I mean, nobody gets an extradition order for trespassing, but it's all very political.
And why so?
Well, Japan has taken $30 million from the Tsunami Relief Fund to use just to try and shut down Sea Shepherd's activities. And so they sent an army of lawyers after us. We've been charged with contempt in the U.S. courts, but they haven't been able to stop Sea Shepherd. The 3 ships with 100 crew from 24 nations leave in a week to go down there.
How would you characterize your tactics?
As enforcing international conservation law.
And people who say they're too aggressive, too violent, and too risky, you say?
They've destroyed one of our ships, injured our crew, and they kill whales. So if you're talking about violence, it's the whalers who are violent. We have never injured anybody.
Are you winning?
Oh, yes, we are. Last year, they only took 9% of the quota. The year before that, 17%. And so Sea Shepherd has been able to effectively shut down their illegal whaling operations in the Southern Ocean.
Japan is by and far and large the biggest culprit.
Yes, it is. It's the primary culprit, and they're targeting endangered whales in an internationally established whale sanctuary in violation of a global moratorium on whaling, and they're in contempt of the Australian Federal Court.
And why do they want these whales?
Well, that's a good question, because there's really no market for them. It's like they have this policy: if we give in on whaling, we might have to give in on bluefin tuna, and nobody's going to tell them what to do. But this is a sanctuary that they're killing whales in, and the nations of the world have a responsibility to uphold those laws, but they're not doing it. And because of that, non-government organizations have to do it for them.
Why aren't they upholding the law?
It's not in their economic or political interest to do so. We have all the rules and regulations to protect our oceans, but no economic or political will to enforce them.
What do you fear?
I fear losing the whales. I fear losing, diminishment of life in our oceans. If the oceans die, we die.
This is such a fascinating story because I don't think people have a good sense of what's going on in our oceans. And, I recently learned that the largest fish market in the world is in Japan. Even stuff that's caught off Nantucket, a tuna, is flown to Japan, sold in Japan, and then sometimes flown back to the United States. How much is going on in terms of overfishing and what's happening?
A lot. I call it the economics of extinction. There's money to be made by driving species into extinction, because as the numbers go down, the value of the fish goes up. One bluefin tuna is worth $75,000 right now, and the price is going up. When there's no more, and the only ones left are in the warehouses in Japan, they'll be priceless.
If an American president or an American administration wanted to stop the Japanese, could they?
Yes, all they have to do is enforce U.S. Department of Commerce regulations against Japan and Iceland, but they choose not to do so.
Thank you, Paul.
Really interesting. Thank you, Paul.